Urbanization is a major feature of global population redistribution. Even though sub-Saharan Africa is currently ranked as the least urbanized region of the world, it is projected that in the next few decades, the continent will have more than half of its population living in urban settings, and this increase comes with challenges. Disasters continue to erode developmental gains from economic growth in Africa, especially in urban settings. Flooding alone is costing sub-Saharan Africa 1.4% of its GDP each year. Nairobi County experiences loss of life and property every rainy season. Since the beginning of the year 2019, there has been 49 fires, one of them being Toy Market in Kibera.
Disasters remain the most dangerous threat to the goal or to the pursuit that the county government and of course the people of Nairobi are aspiring to achieve. And some of these disasters really, they occur not because they have to occur, but they occur sometimes because we are not very well prepared.
It's high time that we move from the mode of reactive response to disasters so that we start now being proactive and we plan ahead so that we can be able to mitigate disaster.
The Nairobi Urban Risk Hub is one among 3 other city hubs in Istanbul, Quito and Kathmandu. Under the UK Research and Innovation, Global Challenges Research Fund's Multi-Hazard Urban Risk Transition Project, which is led by the University of Edinburgh. The project director is Professor John McCloskey from the School of Geosciences at the University of Edinburgh, with the co-director as Professor Mark Pelling from the King's College London. The Nairobi Urban Risk Hub will work closely with the Department of Disaster Management and Coordination within the county government to speed up an emerging transition from a crisis response mechanism towards a more coordinated, informed and proactive approach to risk management and reduction. The African Center for Technology Studies ACTS is a Nairobi Hub's lead partner led by Dr. Johannes Atella. ACTS is one of the leading think tanks in Africa and globally, with a specific mandate to conduct research and policy analysis, to provide technical advisory services, and to undertake capacity building and dissemination of knowledge on applications of science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development. The other partners include the Nairobi City County Government, the University of Nairobi, Kounkuey Design Initiative, and the Slum Dwellers International, Kenya.
The initiative we are inaugurating today is a project that is going to run for about 5 years, and the project specifically aims to support the county government in the area of disaster management.
What we anticipate at the end of the 5 years is to develop an integrated research evidence that will lead into transitioning the Nairobi City County from a mechanism of crisis response or emergency response to that of a concrete disaster management mechanism.
The project will be working in 4 major global cities, each of which have already a proven track record in disaster risk management, but that are seeking to move that risk management away from a responsive mode, responding after disaster, towards reducing risk through different development choices.
This 5-year project aims to boost and support the development of the disaster risk management plan for the city, establish and integrate evidence based on the city's leading hazards and risks, their drivers, uncertainties, institutional routes and feasible reduction strategies, building scenarios around the multi-hazard interactions with a major focus on flooding and fire.
To help do that, we conceptualize the movement in terms of a culture of risk reduction, and we are proposing that shifting a culture of risk reduction requires working at a number of levels, and so we'll do this in each city. It requires a partnership with the city government or national responsible agency, so here the Nairobi County City Government is a key partner, but also working from the bottom up through community groups and their networks of organisation. So in Nairobi we'll be working with Shack and Slum Dwellers International and KDI, the Kounkuey Design Initiative in Kibera.
The Nairobi Urban Risk Hub will integrate the interaction between the county government, research institutions and the local communities with a common goal to integrate risk management into development policy and practice towards the reduction of risks in Nairobi.
60% of our city is informal or unplanned. Yeah? So we're not talking just Kibera and Mukuru, but we're also talking about Pipeline, and Githurai, because these are places which are unplanned in many, many ways. So how can we start and think about a city which is growing very quickly? The vast majority of our populations from rural to urban or within urban are moving to areas which are unplanned. How can we better deal with the issues that they're likely to face? In this case, we are talking about the multi-hazard interaction. So yes, flooding and landslides and fire as the focus of GCRF, but really it's about how they interact with other things alongside, challenges with water, extreme heat like we had the other day, issues of food prices, etc. All of these things interact together to impact Nairobians in very many ways. What I really like about this project is that it is not just looking at multi-hazard, but also has a multi-team.
The conversation that happens between the community and the county governments is a critical aspect that leads to things changing. And we see that the research then will facilitate this conversation. And therefore we see the hub as very important in facilitating community and the county to work better in designing solutions.
So we hope that this bottom-up energy will come to meet the energy from the Nairobi City County, and indeed that there'll be partnerships forged between those partners over the 5 years of the project, that by project end there will be work done at the level of legislation and policy, but also at the levels of risk identification, management tools, specific actions that communities can take.
The Hub research work will give focus on informal settlements in Nairobi, specifically the Mukuru Special Planning Area and Kibera.
The reason we chose those two sites was a combination of good existing relationships with communities and partners in both those communities, and in the case of the Mukuru Special Planning Area, that there is a real opportunity to work with the management board, which is already a collaboration between the community organisations and the Nairobi City County, to support a replanning of that neighbourhood of many thousands of households.
KDI's role as it stands at the moment is to really bring community focus to the understanding the hazards. So we are going to be contributing to that in a couple of ways. One, because we've been doing so much work in Kibera and so much of that has been linked to flooding, we're hoping to enhance that work as we look at the flood risk model. So start to understand what is the impact for residents, settlements. But it's not just looking at it, it's understanding how community residents already understand these issues, how they respond, how they react, what are the drivers, why were there more fires in 2019 than 2017, for example? What are the drivers for those types of things?
We see ourselves creating access for the researchers, connecting the research to ongoing conversations, and making sure that the research is speaking to people's needs and people's aspirations.
These projects will support Nairobi County to put in place measures as the city continues to expand.
We will work with the county government, and in our work what we will do is to try to support the county government with the capacity to be able to understand these disasters, and also we will support consultative processes that would be leading towards designing effective policies. And we do hope that if we work together, we are not only going to support the planning process, but we can also work together beyond that to mobilize even more resources to help with the implementation of these particular policies.
So we orientate towards tomorrow's cities. We recognise that some would say 60% of the urban area to be built by 2030 is as yet unconstructed. So there is a global opportunity in the next 20 years or so to reduce risk through the growth the cities are experiencing. So our orientation is to reduce risk in tomorrow's cities.
A Memorandum of Understanding between ACTS and the Nairobi City County Government was signed during the Nairobi Risk Hub official launch on 6th May 2019, establishing solid grounds for better collaborative engagement between the two parties in this work and beyond.